Good morning, IB history students. Today we're gonna accomplish a couple things. One, I'm gonna show you some resources that may be helpful and how to access those. And then second, we're gonna talk about how industrialization influenced the ideological movements of the mid 19th century, early and mid 19th century. So first, let's go to our course resources. So within our course resources, you're going to find a folder for each unit, a little picture, and then you'll also see a general course resources folder, and that's what we went over last week. Under the unit that we're on, the Age of Ideologies, you'll find the learning targets, but you'll also find these notes, and these notes are what I want to point you to today. There's also a copy of the readings in here. But these notes may be helpful because it summarizes the things for the project or the items. So as this loads, you'll just see it's not a perfect copy, but you get the idea. On the bottom, at the end, you're going to find the topic of socialism. That's what we're going to be talking about here today. So first, industrialization. As technology improved, think about it in the United States at the very end of the 18th century, I think 1791, on the East Coast, the first factory opened up, and that wouldn't stop. So as factories opened up and as technology improved, and that could be technology even in farming, for example, where machines would make things more efficient, this causes a massive change in the way societies functioned. So instead of families being completely self-sufficient and all things being produced in the home, people began to buy things that were made in factories or food that was mass produced because that became easier. So it's just this huge transformation in how societies function. And there were some good things, obviously. I mean, technology improved. They could certainly do more. I mean, we see like the steam engine at this time. Instead of being able to only go one way on a body of water, they learned how to go back and forth. And basically, there was a lot of money to be made. And with that also came some problems. And one of those problems was overcrowding and the growth of cities. So if you think about it, in farming, fewer people were needed to produce enough food, in theory. So with things like the mechanical reaper and other tools that made farming easier, people began to flock to cities. And as people flocked to cities, a number of problems arose because of this. Number one, with these large numbers, there was an overabundance of labor. What happens when there's an overabundance of labor in a market economy? Wages are really low. So people weren't getting paid very well. They were working in dangerous conditions. It wasn't really regulated. And the cities themselves became overcrowded. There were issues with sanitation, with crime, I mean, all these problems that needed to be dealt with. And this gives rise to a significant reform movement that we'll refer to here as socialism. Socialists are kind of all over the place. It's not an easy definition, but socialists simply believed that the government needed to play a role in solving problems like this, particularly for urban workers. So we see socialist leaders or from your project prophets like Robert Owen or Charles Fourier or Henri Saint-Simon. Later on, we'll read about the Frenchman named Louis Blanc, and they believed that the solution, the only thing that could solve these problems was if the government did something about it. And that meant that they believed the government should regulate the workplace. They believe that the government should provide jobs if necessary, because in places like France, as you'll see in the middle of the 19th century. There were way too many workers, not enough jobs, and this was causing a significant amount of problems. So it's really about government action. People that followed the socialists mostly were urban workers who saw these problems firsthand and believed that something needed to be done. Most of these socialists were believed in democracy. They were democratic socialists. They agreed with liberals in that a written constitution would be a good idea, but they disagreed with liberals on a number of other things, like how involved the government should be in the economy. That's really where they split. Liberals believed that the government should play a very limited role, whereas socialists saw these problems of the inner cities or of cities, and believed that the government needed to do something, needed to play an active role. And we'll see that that role would range even within the movement. And that would bring on a more radical thought in the form of, for our purposes here, the Marxists. At this same time, we have Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, the son of a factory owner who wrote the Communist Manifesto in the middle of the 19th century, and they believe that this really radical model that the whole thing should be overturned. It shouldn't be a market economy. That all people shouldn't work individually but should work collectively. They believe that people shouldn't even get a wage. That everybody would be so happy to work together that they would be motivated for the whole and not the individual. Very radical thought. Never really has been implemented the way that Karl Marx or Friedrich Engels had thought. What really makes it a more controversial theory, too, is their views on religion. That the Marxists believed that religion was a danger. They call it the opiate of the people, that it was the only reason for religion to exist is to keep working class people from rising up. So that makes Marxism awfully, and you'll certainly read more about it, but that makes Marxism awfully controversial. A lot of socialists, and be clear on this, socialism is the most dominant economic system in the world today. That governments are involved in the economy. That's how really most countries function. How much is the debate within governments? How much the government should be involved? And that's where we'll leave off today. So you have those notes. These could be helpful to you to summarize the different ideologies or most of the things that you're reading about. And if you have any questions, please ask. Have a great day.